guys, my name is Olivia. Welcome to my video. I am a stay-at-home mama to 3 and I homeschool my 2 older kiddos. I have a 6th grade son and I also have a 2nd grade daughter. I also have a 1-year-old who's almost going to be 2 that I sometimes chat about as well. I share homeschool things and motherhood things and lifestyle things. Today I'm going to be going over a curriculum for my 2nd grader that we've been using this year. It is her science curriculum and it is Journey Homeschool Academy, and we are using the biology course. This is a broad biology discipline, this course. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the company and then I'm going to go into this specific course that we use. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I was looking for as a science curriculum for my daughter this year, and then a little bit about the company, and then the specific course that we are using this year. So going into the school year, I knew I was going to be having a 1-year-old, a very mobile, hands-on 1-year-old. And my 6th grader did not need as much from me because I had given him a lot of independent work that he was capable of doing through a program for a curriculum for him. And if you want more information on what I'm doing with my 6th grader, I will link that above and also down below. But this year I also knew that I was going to be diving in with her a lot deeper in language arts as far as grammar and writing was concerned, and I was going to be being hands-on with my 1-year-old as well. So I needed to have something that was a little bit more self-directed for my kiddo. Now, my daughter specifically does not need help in reading. She is at a really high reading and comprehension level, so that part I knew that she wouldn't necessarily need for me, but at the same time, I did not want it to be textbook heavy or workbook heavy in general. If you have seen my Blossom and Root science video, I have one of those on the different science programs that we've used through her. I will also link that up above. I really love this program, and this is also one that is not necessarily like lesson hands-on from me. It still does take a little bit more in-depth from the parent than I was willing to do as far as looking up and making the playlists for the different videos we were going to be using each week, putting together all of the different books that we were going to be doing each week, and then also the hands-on activities. I love that program, and I do hope that we can get back to it for my daughter who hasn't done any of them yet. But my son did several. Maybe in the future at this point, like in this phase of life with all of the different things that are happening, I needed something a little bit more able for her to be self-directed. So I scoured and scoured and scoured, first of all of the different science programs, and not just necessarily ones that were not parent intense and or not textbook heavy. I downloaded, I can't even tell you how many sample curriculums, like sample weeks from different science curriculums for her, so I could really look at them, look exactly at what was going to be included and what was going to be expected of my kiddo, and then seeing how I thought that it was going to work in with other lesson plans for my other kids. And then on Instagram ads, which get me all of the time, I had an ad for Journey Homeschool Academy, and it happened to have been for, I mean, it's one of the science programs that I had not looked at yet. I had not gone through and looked at yet, and so I was like, okay. I clicked on it after watching the ad because it pulled me right in, and then I went through their whole website and downloaded samples. And I knew pretty much right off the bat at that point that this is going to be the company that we were going to use for my daughter for science, and I'm so happy that we have went with this one this year. So the main chunk of this program is video based, and the videos are about 14 to 16 minutes long on average. So especially for elementary school, I don't know how long the videos are for middle school and the high school courses, but for the elementary school courses, especially for this biology one specifically, they are about 14 to 16 minutes long. Sometimes they're a little bit longer, sometimes they're a little bit shorter. So that is a really approachable amount of time for a kiddo my kiddo's age. So my daughter is 7 and she will be 8 at the end by the end of the school year. So for a 7 and 8-year-old, in my opinion, I feel like this is a really decent amount of time to expect a kiddo to be able to sit down and watch a video of this length and then take in and digest the information given to them. Another thing about the video that I like specifically is that I do think the creators, the husband and wife that film and record the videos, do a great job of making the information approachable for elementary school kids. Again, I don't have experience with the middle school or the high school courses, but watching these videos with my daughter, or when my daughter has to watch them by herself, it is really age appropriate. So the main chunk of the program is the video, and then you get to decide how much more you want to fill in for that lesson for the rest of the week based off of the other components to it. There are quizzes, there are hands-on projects and activities, there's book lists for every week. There's also copy work in both cursive and in print, and the copy work covers either Bible pieces or quotes from different, not just biologists, but different scientists in general, but they're always applicable to specifically the lesson. So I can't remember if I've mentioned it before in the video, so I'll repeat it now. This is a faith-based program. I was not looking specifically for a faith-based program because, again, I just wanted to do something that was going to be the best fit for my daughter. The fact that it's also Christ-based is a plus for me. I also think that though there may be other programs out there that come from Christian companies or are faith-based here and there, where they might be able to kind of gloss over the faith aspect if your family is not specifically looking for that. This is not going to be a curriculum that would be an easy thing to do. There are definitely mentions of God's creations in a lot of the videos, and also a lot of the copy work and even some of the memorizing, if that's something that you want to include in your lessons. Are pieces from Genesis, when the Lord was creating the earth and creating life itself. So all of that is tied into here. Okay, if you are still with me after that detail, then I will explain more that they don't state explicitly or discuss or argue the fact of young earth versus older origins, but it does talk about the universe, and it does talk about theories that date back millions and billions of years. So now if that takes it out for you because you were wanting a young earth based science curriculum, here are even more details about the program. So this studies broad biology. It is not just zoology. It's also not botany. You start in the very beginning. The first lesson has to do with life and defining life, and then it goes into classifying or breaking up the different kingdoms and all the way down to species and how that works. You touch a little bit on bacteria, a little bit on plants and fungi. You go into cells. You go even smaller from cells into like DNA. You do both plant cells and animal cells. You even touch on protists and those sorts of things. Then you get a little bit more condensed into, you do a little bit more with plants. So you do plant anatomy, and then what a seed is, and germination, and all of that, and different pieces of plants and roots in general, and how the composition makes the plant work, that sort of thing. The rest of it does look like it's going to be a like animal kingdom based piece. So you start also with defining vertebrae and invertebrate, and then how the different animals are split up from that point, and then it gets even more specific, and you're going to go into some of the different classifications of animals. You start with the most simple animals, and then you move up into mammals and what have you. So from day one, you're learning about life, and at the very end, you're touching on specific mammals and different classifications of mammals. And like I said, plants, bacteria, protists, fungi, a little bit of that in between, as well as like DNA and cells. So for elementary age kids, this does cover like quite the scope within the biology discipline, and I am really pleased with the way that it is approached for elementary school kids. Within those videos specifically, they usually start with some sort of example or story that is then transitioned into the main chunk of the information for the lesson. The informational part, the actual facts that you were given are like textbook correct. And I know this because my schooling history has to do with biology, cellular and molecular biology specifically. So it does not skirt or like fluff the main important chunks of this. But I do think that they do a pretty good job of kind of like leveling with a kid in the beginning, the first intro to it, by a story or an example that then transitions into the main facts, to the point where, again, I haven't seen the middle or the high school courses yet, but it is, they are middle, like elementary school type intros. So I don't really know how else to explain that. It's not as if like it's not helpful or there's anything wrong with it at all. I actually appreciate it instead of just diving into all of the facts that then your kiddo is going to have to be absorbing for their lesson that day. But I mean, it's kind of young, but that's fine. The elementary school specifically is geared for K through 5th, and then there is the middle school version, and then a high school version. So when you purchase this, you get lifelong access to the PDF and any updates that they wind up doing. And you can print out as many as you need for your family throughout those years. So again, K through 5th. So if you have multiple elementary school aged kiddos and you are wanting to teach them just one like family style science lesson, there are definitely ways where you can kind of ramp up the rigor for this by including everything in there. So the different copy work, the book lists, the activities, the quizzes, the memory portion, and the video. Or you can just kind of make it a little simple, have your kiddos watch the video of it, and then maybe have a student journal, or we're thinking like kindergarten, first graders here, draw a picture of something that you remember from the video. There's your lesson for the week. Like I said before, the copy work is offered in both cursive and in print. You get the whole PDF, so you get to print off exactly what it is you want to add in there for your kiddo. Something else that I really, really appreciate about this program is the fact that it is not teacher resource heavy at all. I'm not doing the teaching here, and it took me quite a few years of homeschooling for me to be able to understand that there are some things that I have to outsource and let go, and I cannot be the involved teacher for everything, at least for my family and the way we work with all of the different activities we have going on all of the time. So I am really, really thankful for this program, for this phase that we are in with my daughter. I always get emails of different updates and newsletters, that sort of thing, and there are often Facebook Lives and that sort of thing that I can tell that the community for this program are involved in. I don't have Facebook, and I don't really participate in any of that, but I do love that it's a resource for those of you who are in this program and using it, and if you may have questions or what have you. I also enjoy how involved the creators are within the program as well. I do have Instagram. I have not been updating my account that would be connected to this YouTube account very often. It's been a really in-depth holiday season and getting back into the school year now in January, but I do have plans to kind of dive back in there and get that started again. They are a little bit involved in Instagram, but not as much as I have noticed with their newsletters and Facebook. I know this video is getting pretty long. A lot of my reviews and flip-throughs of curriculums are long because I know how difficult it can be to want to find information on different curriculums of people who've actually used them and examples of the curriculum right in front of you when I'm curious about one, because there are still so many that I just cannot find looks into these curriculums. And so then it's hard for me to determine if it's worth investing my money into it or not. So there are also options to get some of the resources in hard copy, like the student workbook and the parent resources. When I tell you that the parent resources are thin because there's not a lot that the parent needs to be involved into, it's honestly just kind of like a glorified answer key, which in this stage for where we're at right now in our homeschool I am totally okay with. I'm so happy that there's not a huge hefty parent guidebook that I need to flip through or be involved in right now for this. I am going to give you a flip through example of one of the weeks that we did in both the student workbook and corresponding online, what you are going to be seeing when you log into your portal to watch these videos. So I'm going to get into that portion of the video right now. All right, you guys, so here I am logged in. This is when you go to journeyhomeschoolacademy.com. I'm going to go up here to my dashboard. If you're signed in already, you're going to see this access now, the course access, and it shows you the courses that you have purchased and have available to you. So say this had been my third year and I had purchased all of these would all be colored, but I just went with the biology course for this year. For the elementary levels, you have earth science, biology, and astronomy. I purchased biology, so this is going to take us to our biology course. This is your welcome video here, your course goals, the different components that you are going to have access to. If we go down here to the resources tab, this is where you are going to be able to download the parent curriculum guide, the answer key, activity answer key, a full supply list for the year, recommended reading for the year, the lesson outlines, and the lesson plans. These lesson plans here are some different examples of how to implement the course itself into your homeschool. I have not used that, but I appreciate that it's available for everybody if you are wanting it. So I did go here and do the PDF document, and I printed this off myself, and then I took it to a local office supply store and I got it spiral bound. But you can purchase, it says that the student adventure guide is essentially all of the student materials, so the workbook I'm going to be showing you in the video, and the lesson cards. I had both of these downloaded myself. I just printed them out at home. But if you don't have access to printing them off at home, or you would like just having a hard copy yourself printed right from the company, then you have the option here. I actually don't even have any of the parent resources printed out themselves. Like here's an example to the quiz answer key. It's literally just, it's this short. So for me, I didn't print that off. When she takes the quiz and she fills it out, I come in on here and we read it off together. And then if there happens to be an issue, we go back and we fix it together. The activity answer key is just a little bit thicker. There are not answer keys to every single lesson because the different activities and the projects, it just differs lesson to lesson. You're not going to always see the exact same activity or the exact same project. Like we just finished up lesson 17 and that's the end of the answer key for the student activities because it's just not necessary. All right, I'm going to scroll down to the lesson that I'm going to be going over as an example in the student workbook that my daughter has already done. It's going to be this one, lesson 14, the reason for flowers. So this is going to be what you see when you come to the main lesson, the main video lesson, because there's a main video lesson and then there's also a very short memory video that is just the condensed main core facts that they want you to get out of the lesson. Are you ready to experience biology? All right, so it has a little intro here for you. Has some cute music and it has all of these really fun pictures and little clips of animals here. And then so the creator here, she's giving, this is the intro part that I was talking about where there's an example or a little bit of a story and then she transitions into the core facts for the video. And as you can see, this one's 13 minutes and 19 seconds long. They're really nice and short. She gets into it, both her and her husband do parts of the recorded video, and it's just different parts of her explaining things and going over facts. And then there are often clips that you're going to see in here that go along with the video as far as what the topic of each one of the lessons is. So here we actually got to dissect a flower. So I'm going to go on now from here to the extra materials and give you an example. You're going to be able to see this in my flip through of the workbook itself, but if you want to go week by week and you don't want to print everything off or have a hard copy right away, then you can just go on here to the extra materials. That's always within the little block for each one of the lessons. So we actually did a flower dissection and it was really fun. We used tulips and lilies. So I'll show you what that looks like here as far as the PDF goes, and then I'll show you in my daughter's book what we did then as well. So they're all going to look like this. The first part is going to be just a little intro into what the topic is and then the recommended reading. The next page, here's the example of the activity page, and this gives the instructions and the supply list, and it's very straightforward, and almost all of it you can do depending on age, but this is something that I could have let my second grader do by herself without me needing to be there. Obviously, you're going to need to cut into the flower somehow for this specific one. So if you're not ready to let your kiddo use a sharp knife or scissors or something like that on your own for a kindergartner or first grader or whatever, insert whatever age, obviously you supervise as much as you need to. So here's a diagram of the flower, of what we were looking for and the different pieces of it. And then it gave you examples of how to color the different pieces as a way to interact with the diagram and kind of align with what you were looking at experiment-wise, hands-on, to what the diagram looked like as well. Here's a little bit more work if you wanted to. You could have colored or drawn your own piece and then answered a couple of these questions. This has to do with another portion, another lesson, a few lessons back that just kind of continues on for several lessons. Here's an example of the memory work, the copy work. So this is going to be the print option. And then there's always a blank page there so that you could copy right onto there instead of having to have your own resources for the copy work. Here's the cursive option, the blank sheet for the cursive copy work. These are these memory pieces, and I will show you in my daughter's workbook how we use these, but they're little memory cards, and it's basically the very core parts of the lesson that they think are the most important, that they would like you to memorize if this is something that you want to add into your homeschool and your lessons. And then there's also a quiz. So I showed you how to get to the answer key in the other resources, the parent resources. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a flip through of my daughter's workbooks and how we utilize all of these pieces in a printed out hard copy. Okay, before we're going to move on to the student notebook of my daughter's, I just wanted to give you a short, quick look at the memory video. So remember, if you click on this big main part of the tab for the lesson that you're on, you get the longer video. So this was the one that was 13 minutes and 19 seconds long. And then there's also an included memory video. The memory video is very, very short. Oops, oh no, is that going to go to a new thing? Yes, oops, I'm sorry. Bear with me and my clicky fingers. All right, this is the memory video for lesson 14. So this is the one that is essentially like the little sister to the big part of the video, the main lesson part. So when we click on this,
hey, this is your 14th memory video.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's a better spot to pause it for him. So as you can see, this is a minute and 43 seconds long. So when I say that it's just a short memory video, this is what it is. And when I scrolled over into the PDF portion and we went down to the bottom of the extra resources for the lesson and you saw the little memory questions, this is the video that correlates with that. So I will kind of give you an example of how I spread out each one of the lessons throughout the week. The last day of the week is Friday, and that's when we watch the memory video. So at this point, it's been about 3 or 4 days since she has watched the big portion of the video. So we will watch the memory video. It's a minute and 43 seconds long, and this just covers the very main core pieces of each one of the subjects that are the lessons for each week. So once she watches this and she's a little bit refreshed, then I have her answer those memory questions or those lesson question cards. Again, I'll give you a better example when I show you what we do in her workbooks, but that is what this memory video portion is. So I've shown you the digital version of it. It's going to look exactly the same printed, obviously, because it's just those pages printed. But so before I knew how exactly I was going to be implementing this, like how it was going to work into our weekly schedule, I didn't know how all I was going to put all of the components and make them work. So I literally printed out everything. So if you print out the entire student workbook, this is what you're going to get. And it looks like a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot if you take more time in the planning stages. So I printed this off at home and then I brought it to a local office supply store. It was just my staples and I had it bound with the spiral and then the clear top and a hard back. So what you're going to see in here is exactly like the flip through that I showed you online in the digital pages. This is basically the same layout you're going to have for each one of the chapters. So for lesson 14, this is the intro. It's going to show you what the recommended reading is. It's going to give you an explanation of what is inside of this chapter. This is the activity. Any correlating worksheets that go along with the activity are printed after that. I printed off the copy work because, again, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to be using it or not. I wound up deciding to not do both print and cursive, and I printed it off in just print. I have not been using the handwriting portion whatsoever the entire year. And then typically the very last piece included in each one of the chapters is the quiz. So in the example that I showed you online, this is the activity. We dissected flowers on a couple of different flowers just to have a better understanding of the anatomy of different sorts of flowers. So it gives a very basic breakdown of the very obvious pieces of a typical flower. And we did have actual flowers that we observed and we tore apart and we identified things on the real flower, which was fun. And then I had her color it based off of how it suggested doing it. She was able to sketch her own flower that we did, whether it was a perfect or an imperfect flower. And like I said, this diagram is very much an example of your typical perfect flower because of all of the very obvious pieces here. This has to do with another chapter, another experiment from another lesson, the handwriting, and then the quiz. So the way that we break down our weeks, we have a 4-day school week. So on the very first day, she watches the main video, the very big, long video. And then after she watches that video, she takes the quiz right along with it afterwards. The next day, so our days start on Tuesdays. So Tuesdays, she does the video and the quiz. And then on Wednesdays, we would do the activity or the project. So that's what was done here. Thursdays is actually a break day from science, and then Friday she writes in her student journal. So let me show you that. Okay, so in the online flip through of what you see on your online course that I covered earlier on in this video, it shows you that there is the main video, which is the longer one, which is usually between 14 and 16 minutes long. And then I also showed you the memory video, and that is just the 2 or 3 minute video that covers the very core facts that it wants you to have down for the topic of the chapter or the lesson that week. One of the components that goes along with that memory video are also what they call their memorization cards, and you can actually get these and the student notebook printed out and sent to you by the company in a hard copy if you would like. Again, I printed these out myself. I wasn't exactly sure how we were going to utilize these. I just have them here and I keep them connected in a little alligator clip. And what I do is for the lessons, so this is an example of lesson 14. This one only had 2 questions that went along with it, but there are other lessons that have 3 or 4 questions that accompany the lesson to really cover and ingrain those core pieces of the lesson. So for example, for lesson 14, this is her 2nd grade notebook, and this is where we just keep basically like a portfolio of the work for the school year. So here in lesson 14, I wrote out actually the questions from the memory card pieces, and then she goes in here and answers them after she has watched that memory video. This isn't, I mean, as a second grader, this is not something that I expect her to have drilled down and memorized at the end of the week after watching and like being given that information at the beginning of the week. If you have a fifth or a sixth grader or what have you, and you think that that is part of the rigor that you need to include in your homeschool, that's great that you can make that work for you in that way. But I have her watch the memory video and then she fills this out. Just like for the student workbook, I have her watch the main video and then she gets to take the quiz right after it. I don't save it for the end of the week to see everything that she's held on to the entire week. That's not the purpose for second grade that I focus on. So yep, this is what it is. I just write out what the lesson is and then what the memory questions are in here, and she fills them out as she watches the memory video. And so we have a whole lot of information that she has learned this year recorded in kind of like a portfolio, an example of a portfolio type of way. So this portion is what she winds up doing on Friday. So Tuesday we watch the main video and take the quiz. Wednesday is our project or our activity day. Thursday's a break, and then Friday we watch the memory video and do the memory cards or the memory questions. I chose not to have the parent resources printed out. I have so many pieces moving for all of the different subjects for both of my kids who I'm teaching, and I just don't need any extra things to hold on to, which is again one of the reasons why I went with this curriculum to begin with, was because of the very limited parental resources that were necessary. The activities that they have the kiddos doing are really fun and engaging. During the DNA one, she literally was able to put together a DNA strand, a double helix with, you know, the marshmallows, toothpicks, and the licorice, which is always a really, really fun activity for the kiddos to do. So they kind of get a hands-on example of what it is that you're talking about and looking at when you're talking about DNA. There's another time when we were learning about microbes and bacteria, and we actually grew bacteria within a petri dish. That was really cool. And those are just some more examples of how fun it can be to include those activities and the projects within your weeks. There are some times when we don't do the project or activity. It just is not on the docket, or we don't have the things available, or I don't think that it's necessary, or what have you. There's other times when they go out and about and they gather things and write down examples of it. Here is another example. It's kind of hard to see when the camera's set up horizontally like this, but during one of our animal lessons where we were going over cnidarians, they had this example of creating a jellyfish with coffee filters and markers and spray bottle. It suggested using streamers. We don't have streamers, so we literally use toilet paper and tissue paper. It's very simple, but it gives the kids, it's like a really age-appropriate way to connect the information, which can be dense and heavy, of science into something fun and hands-on. So we've really, really been enjoying this portion of this curriculum. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I know that it was a bigger one. I hope that I got all the information you may have into the video. If not, and you guys have further questions, feel free to leave those down below in the comment box and I will get back to you there. This has been a really sweet and thorough science year for my daughter. I'm really happy we went with this program. I don't know what's in store for next year yet because I am not doing the January/February curriculum shopping like I have in the past. I just need a break. My brain needs a break. So I don't know what's in store for next year yet, but I would recommend this product for elementary school homeschoolers. If you guys don't have any further questions, I will just see you guys in the next video.